You know, everybody's been asking me lately, RB, you're the Sixers guy. How do they move forward? What do they do next? How do they get out of rock bottom? And I'll tell you, it is not easy. It does not look hopeful right now. There's been a lot of negativity recently. However, it is Friday. I am feeling good. And today I'm going to try to spin it in a positive light just a little bit. And I'm going to list 3 different things that the Sixers must do right now if they want to start getting this back on track. But I'll also warn you about some things they're doing where if they keep doing these things, they are going to doom the organization for a very long time. So we have a ton to get into, but welcome in to Philly Take with RB. I'm RB. The amount of people that have continued to support this platform through really the worst extreme of a season has been absolutely humbling and incredible. So I thank you all so much for continuing to tap in. The coverage never stops. It never dies. And ladies and gentlemen, boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. I do want to start it off with one quick piece of news. Some Sixer fans may not like this, but Ricky Council has been assigned to the Blue Coats yet again. And I put this here on Twitter this morning. It might be the beginning of the end for Ricky Council with the 76ers. A lot of people have been turned off to his play style lately, how he just jacks a bunch of shots. But even a game like last night where he just comes in the fourth quarter, doesn't even play against a team that's resting almost their entire starting lineup, he has to be ticked off. And similar to a lot of other young players on the team this season, I just feel like Nick Nurse has not allowed any of these young guys to really get a rhythm going. A lot of the things people are saying about Ricky are the same things they said about Isaiah Joe. He went to a better situation, and look what he did. I'm not saying Ricky is as good as Isaiah Joe, but I just feel like we've seen these glimpses. We've seen something there, and right now it just doesn't look promising, and Nick Nurse just doesn't like him, I guess. So give me your thoughts on Ricky Council down below, but we really need to dive in to the architect here, right? We need to discuss the formula, the plan moving forward, and I'm going to give you a couple things that absolutely need to happen starting today, but I want to open up the floor to you. So do me a favor and drop down below in the comment section right now. If you were in charge of the 76ers, okay, what is 1 or 2, or give me 3 things that you would immediately do in order to start getting this thing back on the right track? Give me your thoughts down below. And before I dive into mine, I got to give a shout out to the great sponsor of this video. That is Mando deodorant. Ladies and gentlemen, even though the Sixers absolutely smell horrible, they reek, you do not have to with Mando deodorant. If you're someone who is itching to find the right deodorant, you know, maybe you're searching out there, you've never found the right one that can't suit your needs, right? Doesn't help block the sweat, doesn't smell good. Guess what? Look no further. Mando will serve that purpose. Maybe you're getting ready to go on a nice date and not watch a Sixers game. Well, guess what? Get the Mando deodorant, all right? Whole body deodorant that was created by a doctor who saw how body odor was being misdiagnosed and decided to create this bad boy, man. Here's my 2 favorites, all right? The whole body deodorant, the Mount Fuji, and the bourbon leather. I'm telling you, keep these things coming. These are absolutely amazing. You have the invisible cream deodorant. You have the spray deodorant. This is the bourbon leather. I really like the bourbon leather. All of these smells are just very unique. And my favorite thing is that they don't irritate the skin. Right now, they are the #1 whole body deodorant formula. They're being sold in Walmarts and Targets and retailers all across the nation, but the best deals are on shopmando.com. So ladies and gentlemen, you have to go and check out the Mando starter pack. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of choice, and deodorant wipes and body wash, and free shipping as well. And right now, new customers can get $5 off. That equates to over 40% off of the Mando starter pack by using my code PhillyTake5 at shopmando.com. Once again, shopmando.com. Support them. Let them know RB sent you. I'm telling you, man, my ultimate favorite, the Mount Fuji. Check it out. You'll never smell bad again. All right, let's talk about the 76ers who smell absolutely terrible right now. Last night's game really hit me. It was like the final deafening moment where, you know, I come into the season, I think they're going to be really good, and there's been ups and downs, emotional roller coaster of a ride, and There's been times where I'm so stressed out, I'm pissed off at this team. But last night was like waving the white flag. It was like the ultimate giving up point. Even going into the game, the Sixers are down Maxey and Paul George and Embiid and everybody. But the Celtics disrespected you, and nobody cares. The Celtics literally sat 4 starters just to rest them because they're looking at you like you're practice dummies, like you're just a layup line at this point. The Celtics are like, oh, we don't need to play any starters. We'll still win. And they ran you off the floor. Matter of fact, Jason Tatum didn't even have to play this game. They would have won as well. It was just absolutely disrespectful. And you got guys like Baylor Shireman, who is the 30th overall pick in the draft. He has only played a handful of games, averaging 0.8 points per game. And even he dropped 15 points. He's sliding down the floor. The bench is erupting. The Sixers have become a laughingstock. That's what they are. And this game last night was just a little bit more to tack on. I mean, there's individual performances that are good, but even Quentin Grimes went 2 for 11, and it felt like he was trying to do everything, and he just couldn't. I mean, defensively, he was locked in, but you could just see how much they have given up, and there's just no need to really sell us anymore. And I've been on the record now, and everybody needs to get on this record, that the Sixers need to lose every game for the rest of the season. Here are their upcoming games, okay? The Utah Jazz, the Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors, and the Pacers. They need to lose all 4 of those games, and I'll tell you why. If we look at the Toronto Raptors' upcoming schedule, all right, starting with tonight, they play the Utah Jazz. Then they have 2 in a row against the Washington Wizards. Ladies and gentlemen, the Toronto Raptors, who are currently in the 5th spot, they need to win. The Sixers need to lose. And the Raptors just won 2 against the Magic. They hit that buzzer beater. They showed us, even though they're young, even though they already have good talents and maybe they can get another one, they don't care. They're trying to win games. And if we go over to our friend tankathon.com and we look at remaining schedule strength, guess who is last? Guess who has the easiest schedule remaining? Boom, you guessed it, the Toronto Raptors. So we've talked a lot about these odds and where the Sixers are at. And currently they're tied with the Brooklyn Nets. And they need to find a way to get up to number 5 against the Raptors, and they need to surpass them. Okay? Why? Well, you don't have to do the math. I did it for you. Right now, the Toronto Raptors have a 63.9% chance of getting a top 6 pick. The Sixers are currently at 34.5. If the Sixers get up to the 5th spot by the end of the season, even if they move up and the Nets move up and the Raptors move down, if the Sixers can get up to number 5, they will have a 63.4% chance of getting in the top 6 and keeping their pick. That is a 30% increase from where they currently stand at the number 7 pick. They need to get number 6, but even number 5 would be so much better. And the way they do that is by continuing to lose games. Even if we sim the lottery here, let's see, where do we land today? Wow, look at that. Look at that. Yo, RB is cooking, man. They need to let me put these lottery ping pong balls in. Number 1 pick. There you go. If that happens, the city of Philadelphia will be on fire again, and you can thank me for that. But anyway, the 76ers need to continue losing games. The Raptors are likely to win a couple of their next games. Then they play the Sixers. So this is a perfect opportunity. But let's talk about what the Sixers need to do themselves in order to get things started back on the right track, because they're a long way. Okay. But number 1, they need to stop lying. If they haven't already, maybe they're just saying this for, the publicity and, just trying to get more people involved and bought in and whatever. But like I've said, the fans are not dumb. They're very intelligent, actually. And they need to stop lying about Paul George. They need to officially kick the can, shut him down for the season. I'll tell you why. But here's what Nick Nurse said about losing Paul George after the Timberwolves game earlier this week. Quote, definitely a concern. And then they come back before last night's game and they ask him about shutting down Paul George. And he says, quote, I have not discussed that with anybody. Earlier this week, Tyrese Maxey was dealing with a finger injury. He comes out, he hurts his back. So again, everybody, every which way this season has gone, it has essentially told you The odds are not in your favor. Shut it down. You're not going anywhere. And we still have people like this coming out and saying these things. Now, I also think the organization has no eye-to-eye communication. Like, nobody's even on the same level. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to hear things at the end of the season come out in terms of what we heard about Nick Nurse in Toronto, how they weren't communicating, everybody was not on the same page, and they're just going out there doing whatever. Because I give Nick Nurse credit for not throwing anybody under the bus so far, but every game he comes out like, hey, they didn't tell me anything. All I hear is from the medical staff, the higher ups, the execs, the ownership. They don't tell me anything. How come nobody is communicating? You need to have your ownership, your coaches, your GM, your players, your stars. Everybody needs to be on the same page, and nobody has been on the same page. Like I said, Paul George quits his podcast, and the next day they shut Joel Embiid down, which makes what he said look even dumber. But anyway, number one, you have to shut Paul George down. The other reason is because you need to have any trade value that you can. And by continuing to try to play this guy in meaningless games through a groin injury, it's only going to hurt his trade value even more. And I bring up the cap table not to bore you to death, but just to put it into perspective in terms of where this team's at. Okay, Paul George and Joel Embiid, here are the next 3 years, 25, 26, 27. They're on the books. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not just about the end of the season. I feel like people would be a lot more relieved if it was 3 more years of this stuff, right? So everybody's asking, how do we get out of that? You need to find a way to talk this guy, Paul George, up in the offseason. You need to, just tie his shoes for him. You need to get him dressed. You need him to look like the perfect superstar in the world. And if he continues to play and looks like crap, you're just going to hurt that even more. So, ladies and gentlemen, Paul George needs to be shut down. They need to come out, talk him up, say, hey, he was just hurt. He's still a very good player. He's got a lot left in the tank. And then you trade him in the offseason. That's number one. Number two, Joel Embiid needs to be shipped over to Germany to undergo this injury procedure. I don't know the specifics of this, but I've heard a lot of different things thrown around. A lot of people have told me about the Christian McCaffrey thing that happened this year. Whatever needs to happen, right? Go to the best doctor in the world and see if there's any way that they can fix your knee or get it at least close to what it was. If not, right? If there's no way, then, the future does not look bright. But this should have already happened at the beginning of the season. It should have happened in the summer. They wanted to continue to sell tickets. They didn't care what we thought. And now Joel Embiid is going to have to undergo a crazy procedure. And you know what's even worse? It's not even like they shut him down and they're just like, hey, he's going to get a surgery. He'll be back. We don't know when he's going to be back. We don't know when he's going to get surgery. The last we heard, he had to go directly to Josh Harris. And there's, again, no communication from level 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5. Joel Embiid needs to get his body right as best as it can. And if it can't, then maybe you still get the surgery. You try to throw him out there on the floor, up his value a bit. If not, again, you're going to have to attach draft capital to even try to think about getting off these contracts. And if you look at the future moving forward, right? Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, and this is why you need to try to get that top 6 pick, right? Maybe those 3 and Quentin Grimes and whoever else is here. That's really what you're working with moving forward. And you don't have a lot else. And if you look at the draft picks on this team, it feels like what they're doing is loading up on the back end. You might have to attach 1 or 2 of these picks to even try to get off these contracts. But we'll get back to that in a second. The last and final thing that needs to happen, and here's Daryl Morey. I posted this on socials last night. It was going crazy. Just a wild photo they put on the broadcast. You have the score down here. Looks like Daryl Morey's watching another game. And this look is like the look of defeat. Like, you ever know that you just have nowhere left to turn and you're cooked? Like, you know what I mean? You ever been in a situation where you're like, damn, I exhausted all options. I don't know what's left. That's what I see right here. This looks like the face of a man who's absolutely disgusted and sick. And I see the same thing every time I look at Nick Nurse as well. But nonetheless, the 76ers need to have an organization-wide meeting, and they need to sit everybody down. They need to act like grown-ups, put their big boy pants on, from the ownership to the executives, everybody in the front office, Josh Harris, Joel Embiid, Paul George, all the players. Everybody needs to sit down and they need to have a drawing board and they need to plan out and map out. All right, here's what our next 3 to 4 years looks like. Here's our best route of getting there. And here are the pieces that we have that can help us get there. And here's how we need to start reshaping things. Because again, it does feel like you're headed towards a rebuild. Maybe it doesn't have to be a complete hard reset rebuild, but you're headed there. And the quicker that you accept that is the quicker we can get on with this process of getting things back on the right track. And it might be dark, but what you cannot do, the number one thing you cannot do is try to come back and say, you know what? We're going to run this thing back next year. We're going to get everybody healthy. We're going to be fine, because we all know that that is not the damn truth. And if you do that for the next 3 years, not only are you going to lose the fan base even more, I don't even know if the fan base is left. People watch my streams. They say they don't even watch the games. They watch the streams. You cannot sell that back again. You need to have major uphaul and change, and it's time to create a new culture. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the bigger concern, right? Not concern, but ultimately what I feel we're headed towards, right? If you look at 2028, they have 2 first-round picks. One is unprotected via the Clippers. And in 2029, they have 2 firsts as well. One's a pick swap. You think about all the picks they got at the trade deadline from the Washington Wizards, right? They swapped the 2026 late first. They got more seconds. It really feels like 2028 and 2029 is like the cream of the crop of when they can have all these draft picks and when they can hit on young players and really mold this thing for the next iteration. But what does that mean? It means 25, 26, and 27, aka the years where you have Paul George left on the books, where you have Joel Embiid, might honestly be washes. And if that's where we're at, I mean, again, it's just going to be very, very tough to stomach. I mean, if that's what we're headed towards, okay, but we want an immediate solution. We want to just feel a little bit better about this team, because every which way they have turned this season, it has been absolutely disgusting. So honestly, it's feeling like they're starting to load up for later down the line. I mean, Daryl Morey's contract is up after 2027 as well, and they don't even have a first-round pick this year as of right now unless they get a top 6. They don't have a first in 2027 because of the James Harden trade. So again, it really feels like 28 and 29. Say the Sixers were bad, and in 2028, you know, they get a top 10 from themselves, and they also get a top 10 from the Clippers, right? I mean, that's really, I guess, like your biggest chance of starting to like jolt this thing back into life. But I think they need to sit down, have an organization-wide meeting, get everybody on the same page to what they can, and just decide how they're going to move forward. And, you know, make sure you reiterate that the rest of the season needs to be losing to give yourself hopefully a 30% better chance to land a top 6 pick. And honestly, those are the only things that can happen right now. Make sure Maxey's on the right page mentality-wise. You know, McCain, he's healing and all that. But and also you have to re-sign Quentin Grimes this summer, I think. You have his restricted free agent rights. We'll see what happens with Yabusele. The rest of these guys have player options. Who knows? Who knows? But ladies and gentlemen, that's where I think this thing is headed towards. We will see what happens, but appreciate everybody for tapping in. Give me your thoughts, your strategy, your formula down below. How do they get this thing back on the right track? Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.